What's up, YouTube? So I figured I should, get back to consuming news. Um, and so, yeah, here I am. I'm actually going to change the name of this to Jefferson Consumes the News. Uh, anyway, picked out a few videos, and let's see what the people are, you know, watching. Like, what's going on here? I mean, a lot of really sad stuff out of Sri Lanka. Um, I have a. I I'm not even gonna explain it. Let's just watch some Fox News. I've picked out some videos I thought would be pretty good.
And for more on this, let's bring in our panel. Alex Vogel, former general counsel of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. And Lori Watkins is a former foreign policy director for the 2012 Obama campaign. Welcome to you both. Lori, let me start with you. You know what people are saying, Democrats are saying, that the Mueller report is a roadmap for impeachment. Do you agree?
Yes, it should
I
be.
agree that it could be a roadmap for impeachment should the full congressional delegation, both houses, be able to view the full unredacted version of this report. There were over 900 redactions, 7 full pages that were completely omitted from view, and those need to be produced, and that needs to be under review by Congress so they can then move forward.
And we'll see if they did get those. So, Alex, we have Elizabeth Warren, we just saw, calling for impeachment proceedings to begin. Do you think they will?
So I saw Senator Warren's comments. I don't think she's the last of the 2020 candidates. I actually think a lot of them are going to go there, and I think they're going to be dragged there by AOC and many on the left. And the real issue is you have Speaker Pelosi, arguably maybe the most powerful Democratic speaker in modern history, who's forced between making a very bad political decision and rolling her activist base. So it's not an enviable position from her side. It's not clear which way they go, but there's a lot of cross pressure. Even Mr. Nadler is a little more circumspect than some of the activists.
You talk about Ms. Pelosi and Nadler. Let's listen to exactly what they have to say about that. Here are both discussing this very issue.
We do not leave the country to criticize the President of the United States. We may have differences on policy and that, but we're not there to criticize. We believe that the first Article 1, the legislative branch, has a responsibility of oversight of our democracy, and we will exercise that.
You don't bring an impeachment procedure unless, one, you think you can prove that the president's committed impeachable offenses. Two, they're serious impeachable offenses, not just,
How is fucking colluding? How is leaving America open to future attacks from Russia not an impeachable offense? I mean, I just don't understand.
Three, and this is a more prudential thing, I don't think you should bring an impeachment proceeding unless you believe at the beginning of that proceeding, when you're starting, that you have such strong evidence of such terrible deeds that once that is laid out to the American people, an appreciable fraction of the people who supported the president will agree reluctantly you had to do that.
You know, Lori, they're both being very diplomatic and sober. The speaker is in Northern Ireland, which is why she said she won't offer criticism when she's out of the country. Do you expect a battle royale, between the progressives, AOC, and others who are going to try to push impeachment, yet the Democratic establishment seems to resist it?
Hey, I have full confidence in Speaker Pelosi and her ability.
Fox News is like hard to watch. Like I don't understand how people watch this. It's not all that fun to watch. Like, I thought it was supposed to be this addicting thing that's just like flashing lights and stuff. This is pretty boring.
A Democratic caucus telephone conference on Monday, where possibly that's where they're going to start to hash this out. And I know she's always willing to listen to both sides, but this is a political issue.
Former
Could turn
Obama
into a real
campaign
battle, and she, as well as the other Democrats,
person.
have to decide how they want to play this for 2020.
And could they, of course, have hearings short of impeachment, as they likely will when they do call Mueller and others to testify, Lori, where they can go through these issues. They can go through those 10 points.
It's like Fox News is like trying to figure out how to make the argument that there shouldn't be impeachment over the Mueller report. But there should be. I mean, this thing is crazy. I really don't like watching Fox News. I think I'm going to end the stream.
Full public or not, but members of Congress deserve to see that entire unredacted report.
So, Alex, there will be hearings on this. What do you expect?
Well, look, what I expect is they're going to keep dragging this out as long as they can. The problem they have is, thanks to their own messaging along the way for the last 2 years, plus the money spent by people like Mr. Steyer.
So they have this milquetoast Democrat and this, like, pretty well-spoken, whatever this Scientologist long-faced dude is. But it's like, they let her talk for a minute, and she's like, well, I think if they get the full unredacted report, then they should, maybe it's a roadmap for impeachment. And this guy's like, these Democratic assholes are going to drag this out as long as possible. And so, of course, if you're just watching this all day, you're just going to think that it's all the Democrats' fault. It's really quite brilliant. 2020 Democrats react to Mueller report.
That we just have to wait for the Mueller
I mean, I don't
report.
know what I'm talking
We'll have the
about
facts,
either.
We'll be able to work on this, and now they're
I'm
going
on
to be forced to
page
say, well,
19.
let's just keep having this conversation and dig a little deeper. I don't think the American people have any more confidence that Mr. Nadler or Mr. Schiff or others on the partisan side are going to do a better job investigating what Mr. Mueller did. So I think it's a fool's errand.
What are you
and one that
talking about?
ultimately will be politically damaging.
Mr. Mueller left it
Alex,
to
what about the
Congress.
critics who say,
Mr. Mueller left it to Congress to decide whether, this constitutes a high crime or misdemeanor. He specifically said this does not exonerate Donald Trump. Information laundering,
about
man.
the president's behavior that's revealed in this, between supposedly ordering Don McGahn, the White House counsel, to go fire Mueller, telling Corey Lewandowski to lean on then Attorney General Sessions and the like, allegations of lies, misdeeds, Sarah Sanders misleading the White House press corps.
I can't watch this. All right, let's see what little Lindsey Graham.
Right, following the release of the Mueller report last week,
Jesus.
questions are rightly being asked about what comes next. Congressman Doug Collins tweeted this, quote, claims Mueller report punts the special counsel's work to Congress is just wrong. The report analyzes Congress's constitutional authority to legislate. It does not upend the separation of powers by calling Congress to continue a completed DOJ investigation. Joining us now.
But what? Wait, hold on. What is the pretense of what this? Who is fucking Doug Collins also? Let's see. Rep. Doug Collins. What the hell? What the fuck? Democrats don't seem to like an attorney general who knows how to do his job. He's not doing his job. And who the fuck are you? Let's see. Doug Collins. This is how I actually consume the news. So, Jefferson reads the newspaper was an interesting idea. But if I'm going to share how I consume the news, it's really, I'm looking up people as I'm reading the news. So let's see, this guy. He's in the military. Oh, thank you for your service, Representative Collins. Serves as a chaplain in the U.S. Air Force Reserve with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. He's a member of the Republican Party. Born in Gainesville, Georgia. Master of Divinity. Senior pastor. Alright. Served 2 years in the United States Navy as a Navy chaplain. Was he just deployed as a chaplain? You know, to quote our president, I prefer service members who weren't chaplains. Alright, positions. Repealing Affordable Care Act. Collins did not publicly comment on sexual misconduct allegations against Donald Trump. Collins has an F rating from the marijuana legalization group. Collins has written letters in defense of military chaplains, both of whom have faced opposition for expressing their Christian beliefs. Opposes same-sex marriage. So this guy's a piece of shit. All right. I mean, he looks like the bad guy from Roger Rabbit. Let me see if I can find that guy. Bad guy. Judge. No, not that guy. The bad guy from Roger Rabbit. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? This guy. He kind of... Yeah. Judge Doom. Maybe not. But he looks like something. Alright.
And the separation of powers by calling Congress to continue a completed DOJ investigation. Joining us now in his first interview, by the way, since the Mueller report came out, he was out of the country. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham. Well, you know, we kind of needed you last week, and there you are. I don't know where the hell the heck you are, but we could have used you.
Shoot you.
All right, let's get your general thoughts and reaction, and more importantly, what you're going to do.
Okay. Well, number one, the idea that the Mueller report is not the final word on all things Trump, Russia, collusion, and obstruction is news to me. I thought we all trusted Mueller. So here's what I think
I knew this was going to happen. I fucking called it on Jefferson Reads the Newspaper. Because Democrats don't think about game theory. So as long as the Mueller report does not say, like, indict him right now, they're spinning it to basically be like, it's not a big deal. What's the big deal? Mueller said he's not guilty. And then, boom. Spin that through the Fox News wash cycle a couple of times. Information laundering. Boom, now all of a sudden the Mueller report doesn't matter. And the Democrats look like partisan hacks again. And Trump wins re-election. It's really quite amazing what's going on.
Be a stampede to impeach President Trump. They're going to use the Mueller report, anything they can find to try to destroy his presidency. Nancy Pelosi's not in charge of the Democratic Party. The radical left is in charge. So I expect that they will be impeachment proceedings against President Trump. And the Mueller report, to me, is vindication of President Trump.
Well, you said it's over. I agree with you. You said a stampede for impeachment.
It is over for me.
Let me tell you, I think now we have a 9-month investigation by the FBI. Even Strucken Page said, there's no there. We had nothing, Page said. Then we had the House Intel Committee investigation. Then the bipartisan Senate Committee. Now the Mueller report. You can't say it any more clearly, no collusion. So now the American people...
What? The Mueller report can't say it any more clearly, no collusion? It doesn't say that. It even specifically says that its charge was not to investigate collusion. And it said there's plenty of evidence to hint at coordination. It just says that there's not enough evidence to reasonably think that you could prosecute it. That doesn't mean that there's not enough evidence for impeachment. Here's the evidence for impeachment. Donald Trump has done nothing to abate Russia's attacks on our democracy, and in fact has encouraged them. He wants to set up some type of cybersecurity shit with Russia? Like, oh my god. It's like they just keep... Hannity is literally fucking just lying.
Well, the answer's in on this. If they want to do this...
maybe not. He's just
on top
spinning.
of the Green Deal. What are the political ramifications for not serving the American people?
Well, I think they'll get punished in 2020, and I think President Trump will get reelected. I know what happened in '98 when the American people understood what they got with Bill Clinton. They understand President Trump, warts and all, and Mueller.
They understand President Trump, warts and all. So wait, now Fox News is comparing Trump to Bill Clinton during Bill Clinton's impeachment proceedings that the Republican Party was behind? That is so crazy.
Was the guy that I was going to make sure he looked at the idea of Trump working with the Russians. The verdict is in. There was no collusion. There's no obstruction of a crime that never occurred. The obstruction thing was bizarre to me to begin with. So here's what I think. They're going to be stampeded
What
to
kind of
impeach
dirt
Trump
does
because
Russia
they hate him
have
so
on
much.
Lindsey Graham?
And I hate
wonder?
it for the country. I hate it for the president. But
I
it's gonna
hate it.
result in
You
him
look like
getting
you are
reelected. The media is
about to
not
have a
covering
nervous
the Trump
breakdown,
presidency.
Lindsey
They're
Graham.
trying to destroy it. The Democratic
He's
Party
talking
doesn't
like
accept
someone
the
that
fact
is
that
having a
President
nervous
Trump
breakdown.
won. So at the end of the day,
As somebody
we're just
that is
gonna have to
constantly having a nervous
deal with this in
breakdown, I say
2020
that.
at the ballot box.
So there are three big components here that have not been resolved. We now know the investigation into Hillary was rigged. Even
I think
Trump
so.
and
I think
Page
it was
said,
politically
oh,
motivated.
What?
Loretta Lynch was running every decision. A matter, not an investigation. Then we have the
Right.
attempt to use a phony Russian
Coming up,
dossier. The New
Josie
York Times
Smollett
admitting tonight,
update. So
this
this
interesting.
is all just fucking.
Washington Post writing, oh, Fox News was right, especially Hannity, whatever.
What?
But more
No, they
importantly,
didn't
it's not
write
about
that.
who's right. But a rigged investigation, an attempt to rig a presidential election, and then undo and unseat a duly elected president. What will you do specifically?
Well, there's before and after the campaign. Before the campaign, I
Wow.
want to find out. did
Trump isn't
George
the problem,
Papadopoulos-
Fox News is.
Was he working with the Russians, or did they plant in his mind that the Russians had Hillary Clinton's email? In other words, did the knowledge about Russia and the Clinton emails come from somebody other than Russia? How could you use the dossier 4 different times to get a warrant against an American citizen when it's a bunch of garbage? Why didn't they tell the court that it was a politically motivated document? I'm going to try to find out about the counterintelligence investigation, about how the FISA warrant was obtained against Carter Page. Was there an effort to invoke the 25th Amendment? Who's telling the truth, McCabe or Rosenstein? The person who leaked to the Washington Post that General Flynn was being surveilled during the transition period, if you can find out that person, that's probably the one who started all of this.
It might be it might be a lot earlier than the date we were told, which is July 31st. And did they outsource, did our intelligence community outsource illegal activities to our allies to bypass American laws, intel abuse, turned on American citizens, unmasking, leaking? There's a lot to get to here. Lying to Congress. All right, Senator, good to see you. Welcome back, by the way.
Wow. Fuck David Brooks. Oh, Jesus
David
Christ.
Brooks is a
Fuck
columnist,
David
radio
Brooks.
and television commentator and a best-selling author. In a world full of people claiming the title, he is a true public intellectual. After writing about character, his new book goes further and talks about fulfillment that goes beyond individual character. It's titled The Second Mountain, The Quest for a Moral Life. And we welcome David Brooks to Bloomberg for today's Conversation in Chief, joining us from Washington. So
Yeah,
welcome, David.
here.
Good to have you here.
Here, David, I got an idea for how to live a moral life. Pick a fucking side, you pussy.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So lay out in brief compass for people who have not read the book. There are 2 mountains here, and you're talking about the second mountain. What's the difference between the 2?
Yeah, the first mountain is the one we do when we get out of school. We want to have a career. We want to build a family. And it's sort of based on...
He's a smart guy. Much smarter than me, but I don't like him. Let's see what this weird... Alert!
Fox News alert. Illegal
Fox News alert.
Democrats ramping up with the president filing a lawsuit now to block House Democrats, calling for him to release very certain Trump Organization financial records after the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed several years of those records. from the Trump Organization. Let's bring in Judge Andrew Napolitano, the Fox News senior judicial analyst and host of the Liberty File on Fox Nation. Judge, good morning.
Good morning,
and good to see you.
Likewise.
All right, so they still want these documents. I believe it's 6 years worth of financial records from the president, and now the president's firing back.
Right. So the question is, if the subpoena goes from the House of Representatives to a third party, to his accountants, can the president jump in the middle of that and seek to quash the subpoena? The answer is yes. Just as if the Congress subpoenaed your records from your accountant or my records from my accountant, or a situation with anybody watching us now. The complaint actually asks the court to second-guess Congress's motivation, and courts are reluctant to do that because the courts and the Congress are equal branches of government. They don't get in the business of second-guessing the motivation of either. However, Congress has to have a legitimate legislative purpose.
This is actually a pretty decent explanation.
Tax returns and financial records.
This weird-looking dude, Judge Andrew Napolitano,
have exposed this type of material about themselves, and they can't just get them because they want to torment him. They have to have a legitimate purpose. So,
and they do.
Congress will have to,
for the record, they do have a legitimate
purpose. It doesn't have to be a purpose directly out of the Constitution. It can be something tangentially related to what Congress does, and that'll probably suffice. But if they can't show that purpose, then they're going to lose. Then the subpoena will be
Of
quashed.
course they'll win.
Because it's so new, I want to make sure I get out the details of that, because the president's legal team put out a statement and said that the request for these financial documents lack any legitimate legislative purpose. They call it an abuse of power and say it's just another example of overreach by the president's political opponents. Jay Sekulow said, "We will not allow congressional presidential harassment to go unanswered."
Well, you know, one person's harassment is another person's oversight, but Congress will have to state for what purpose they want this. Again, it's
well put.
It's a low threshold.
You know, this judge dude, he actually, was a decent explanation of what is happening.
And that was upheld. So once they state something even related to a congressional purpose, the court, I think, will allow this to go through.
All right, so we will see where all that goes, and we are now left wondering where Democrats go next with the release of the Mueller report and talk of the I word. We know that
they make this into like sports commentary. That's what I'm realizing. Politics isn't sports. It's not each team just trying to figure out how to fuck the other team. It's kind of like supposed to be about this country.
Do they want to feed the desire of the base of many of them to pursue this to the end?
Whoa, 11 episodes.
They want to look to 2020 and see whether this is going to explode in their faces. I think that Congressman Schiff over the weekend and Speaker Pelosi...
Impeachment would distract from efforts to win the White House. Who fucking cares?
The same thing. Impeachment will fail without a broad, national, bipartisan...
What the hell is this graphic?
That consensus does not exist now. They know how they can develop that consensus, if it is developable. That is to parade
what the fuck
all
was
the
that
witnesses
graphic?
Justified for Mueller, if it is developed.
It had nothing to do with anything. They're just showing Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler, chairman of the Senate, of the House Judiciary Committee and House Intelligence Committee, Permanent Select Intelligence Committee.
That consensus does not exist now. They know how they can develop that consensus, if it is developable. That is to parade all the witnesses who testified for Mueller's grand jury that produced all these allegations in front of the House Judiciary Committee. But that might bore the country to death, and it might explode in their faces. So at this point, it's not legal. It's a political judgment that
the thing is that it's not going to bore the country to death. It is the most interesting story ever. Like, investigating the whole Russia shit is like a fucking modern day sci-fi spy. It checks all the boxes. It's very cool. It's a very cool story. If there was a movie made about Donald Trump, he should be the anti-hero. Like, you should fucking love him. Like, maybe I'll write that movie. It's like, fuck. Alright, no one watch this. And steal my idea. But I don't really care if you do, because it sounds like a lot of work. But think about it. Trump is this fucking, like, burnout kid who just wanted to impress his father, uses his father's fortune, fucking blows it all, trying to be a bigwig casino gangster, then gets a bunch of money from Russia, starts to get dementia, is so racist that he hates the sitting. Actually, it's hard to make him an anti-hero, huh? He's just kind of a piece of shit. He's just a piece of shit that somehow fucking did one of the hardest things in the
That's not
world.
stopping Adam Schiff from saying this.
The fact that you may not be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt a criminal conspiracy doesn't mean that there's an absence of evidence of crime.
Excuse me.
Well, he keeps pounding on the criminal conspiracy crimes. I'd love to know what he knows. Technically, what he said is correct. The standard of proof in an impeachment case is not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a lower standard. But he also said over the weekend, we're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot by attempting to do the impossible.
All right, now there's this fight over the census citizenship question hitting the Supreme Court. Here's Jim Jordan on that, and I'll get your take on the other side, Judge.
Why? Why? Why don't we want to know? That's the question we need answered, and not from you, frankly from them. Because you can go talk to anyone across this country, and everyone would say, ask that question. The only people opposing it are Democrats in Washington, D.C.
This is sparking a lot of legal battles over whether or not to include questions.
Well, I don't know what this is. The census citizenship question.
The long form or the short form. The short form basically says these are the forms the census sends out. How many people reside permanently in your household? You fill out the number. The long form has all kinds of questions about how many toilets and what kind of construction and what's the education. And then if the Supreme Court upholds it, it has this question. So it depends on which form you get. You only have to answer under the law the number of people residing there. Congress may want to know, it's not Congress, it's the Commerce Department, may want to know the answers to the other questions, but you can't be punished.
Wouldn't the citizenship question discourage people who are not here legally from answering truthfully? And then we're not getting a accurate census. Because the census is not how many citizens are there. We should know how many citizens there are because we've issued a social security number to all of the citizens. We already have the number of citizens there are. It's not a question we need answered by the census. What we need to know is how many people are in this country. And if you put a citizenship question on it, then you don't have an accurate number of how many people are in this country. So it's like you're trying to say that it's going to make it more accurate, but it's actually going to make it less accurate. It's counterintuitive, but if you think about it like a normal sane person rather than a person constantly watching Fox News, maybe you would realize that.
And not answering them. You can be punished for not answering or for answering untruthfully the number of persons residing there.
Those that don't want the question argue that undocumented immigrants then would be less likely to fill out the survey.
Well, that may be so, and under the Constitution, undocumented immigrants are counted in the population for the purpose of representation in the House of Representatives. And Jim Jordan is arguing that the reason they don't want to answer this question is because they don't want to be exposed since they don't belong here in the first place. I think the Supreme Court will give us a hint as to where it stands when they have the oral argument on this.
I think all three topics, I think it's, let's see where it all goes. Judge Andrew Napolitano.
It's going to the Supreme Court. That's interesting. I don't want to listen to a pedophile. Dershowitz. Pedophile.
So a new confrontation in the fight over records and a big conference call for the Democrats tonight.
Yeah, they're going to lay out in the conference call what they plan to do, the Democratic leaders, in the days and weeks ahead. And what the Democrats are probably going to emphasize is that they're going to mount a rather aggressive investigation to look into potential obstruction of justice. They want to have significant hearings, Bill Barr being the first one, followed by the special counsel, Robert Mueller. Other individuals will undoubtedly be called before the committee as well, people who are outlined in that report, like Don McGahn. He is one of five former White House officials who the committee has already authorized subpoenas for. They will soon be issued probably to those individuals to get records and testimony. But there was a faction within the Democratic caucus that is pushing the leadership to go harder, to push for articles of impeachment, to begin impeachment
I
proceedings.
think people
And that's
calling
what
for
Nancy
impeachment right
Pelosi
now
and
are
lieutenants
going a
at the
little too
moment
quick, I'll
are
be
trying
honest,
to
even
tamp
me.
down. Now, at the same time, investigations pursuing on.
Because I think what needs to happen is they need to have sound bites of Robert Mueller testifying. No one has heard Robert Mueller talk since he was appointed special counsel. Fair? So let's have some sound bites. Let's wash it through the news cycle a couple times of, Barr, which is going to have some explosive questioning, Mueller explosive questioning. Then you've laid the informational carpet in order to sell the idea of impeachment.
Other fronts, including into the president's finances, and you
Would
saw
be
that
my
lawsuit
recommendation.
filed
Not
today
that
by
I'm,
the Trump organization to prevent a financial
anything.
firm from turning over documents related to the then individual Trump's allegations that he may have inflated his net worth to purchase the Buffalo Bills football team. Those allegations were raised by Michael Cohen in his public testimony. The Trump organization says that subpoena by Elijah Cummings to get those records exceeds constitutional limits. They're trying to prevent that firm from complying with the subpoena. So a new front in this fight between the White House and House Democrats over oversight and investigations. Now it's up to the courts to decide what the Democrats can see. John.
New front. It's getting hard to keep track of all the legal challenges facing the administration and the question of how much power does Congress have. Mono, appreciate the live reporting from the Hill with me in studio to share the reporting and their insights.
This is probably good for our
Phil,
democracy if you think about it. We're kind of testing the limits of what our current system of government is. Perhaps 3 branches of government isn't enough. Maybe we need 5 branches of government. It just seems like the current checks and balances, there's not enough of them. We're kind of testing the limits of the strength of these branches on this government tree. Maybe we need some more branches, strengthen the tree, put more things. We can have a bigger tree house if we have more branches on the tree. Think about that. Maybe the Lorax of the United States could live in a tree house, kind of like the president lives in a White House. I don't know. I'm just, spitballing some ideas here.
Jackie Kucinich of the Daily Beast and Eliana Johnson with Politico. I want to come back at the top to what the president just said there. At the end of the Easter egg roll, he was doing a lap around the White House lawn. He said, nobody disobeys my orders. Now, if you read the Mueller report, the special
Look at this,
counsel
all
says the
women
president's
panel.
aides
That's awesome.
saved him from himself by repeatedly ignoring, deferring, punting, walking away, waiting a few days. But it's not just in the Mueller report. From hour one of this administration, we have had aides telling us, pay no attention to what the president says, watch what we do. He says and tweets a lot of things, and we massage them or ignore them. I guess I understand it as a test of his macho, but it's just not true that nobody disobeys his orders.
It's definitely not true, but I think that one of the things that really drives this president crazy is the perception that he's being managed by his aides. And so I think that's what he's really pushing back against. And the president, I think, the Mueller report paints a picture of a president who's not so much managed by his aides, but simply disregarded. I think it also raises a question about how the country's being governed. The president is duly elected, and in many cases, the country is being governed by his senior aides who simply, on many important questions, are exercising their own best judgment. These people were not elected. But, in a real crisis,
that's impeachable.
Is the president simply going to be disregarded by aides who are going to
A president that has no power, a president that's being disregarded by his aides, needs to be impeached. Obviously, this president is so wimpy and just such a small-hand little pussy bitch that his own aides don't take him seriously. If your aides aren't taking you seriously, how can the country take you seriously? So, I don't know.
exercise their best judgment in this question.
Over this late.
It's
she works for
Politico.
Politico.
I just want to get on the record when the president says something like this. Read the Mueller report. If you don't trust the media, read the Mueller report. This is not 18 Angry Democrats. This is Corey Lewandowski, in his own words, under penalty of perjury.
Read the Mueller report. Yeah, John King. You know who's reading the Mueller report? Old Chibbins here.
Hicks, in her own words, under penalty of perjury. Don McGahn, in his own words, under penalty of perjury, and on and on.
All right, well, on that note, 35 minutes into this, John King is telling me to read the Mueller report, so I think I'm going to have to restart this whole shebang and read the Mueller report.